So 11.5, which is the nursery schools review. We have 3 minutes for each of the first two speakers, 2 minutes for the second speakers, and then 2 minutes for summing up. I call on Councillor Reuben Thompstone to move reception and adoption of item 11.5 on the agenda. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move my motion and I move the amendment in my name. Barnet has 240 early years providers. Until 2011, there was no unified funding formula for these providers. In April that year, the Schools Forum put forward a single early years funding formula with a subsidy for 4 nursery schools of around £890,000, which is equivalent to 70% more per pupil place than other providers. This was funded from an underspent in the dedicated schools grant that no longer exists. Of the 47 Ofsted-rated outstanding early years providers in Barnet, only the 4 nursery schools currently receive this subsidy. This year, the Schools Forum agreed to phase the subsidy out over 2 years. Despite the fact that the schools only exist where they are, 3 in Chipping Barnet, 1 in Finchley and Gold's Green, and none in Hendon, significant work has been put into retaining these valued outstanding provisions. The Chipping Barnet nursery schools have a model that is sustainable. This has been approved by 2 of the school's governing bodies and is yet to be approved by a 3rd. When Moss Hall Nursery School chose not to be part of this project, the school agreed to propose a subsidy-free, sustainable budget. Each budget suggested so far included a permanent 25% subsidy and exhausting the school's considerable reserves so that it would not be sustainable beyond a few years. Whilst the other 3 schools have put forward a model that unites the provision, it's hard to imagine they would welcome a permanent subsidy given to one school and not to their own. So a 25% subsidy for one school for all schools would mean £220,000 subsidy from the early years portion of the dedicated schools grant. This would translate into an average 5% cut to the base budget for these providers, which already receive less per child than the other nursery schools. If Council chooses not to approve these recommendations, those who vote against it will be voted to take real cuts in some of the most deprived areas of the environment.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Rebecca Chalice, you have 3 minutes.
Mr Mayor, under full council procedure rule 12.6, I ask that the meeting agree to hear oral representations from a representative of St Margaret's Nursery. I'm going to miss to be deducted from my time.
Does the Chamber Council agree? Agreed.
Do they?
You carry on.
Okay, thank you. Mr Mayor, I'm speaking...
Sorry, Mr Mayor, Councillor Chalice said that they would be speaking and using up her time. If she's going to speak now, there won't be any time left for them. Or if they speak, there won't be any time for her. Surely it's a choice between one and the other.
There's 3 minutes. I will rule on the timing as we progress. Councillor Chalice.
Thank you. Mr Mayor,
Councillor Chalice, you go first.
Okay, Mr Mayor, I'm speaking tonight in support of the 4 excellent nursery schools that are at risk of closure as a result of funding cuts proposed by the Conservative group, the Children, Education, Libraries and Safeguarding Committee last week. Each of these nursery schools, Brookhill, St Margaret's, Hampden Way and Moss Hall, employ a qualified teacher in every class, having been set up under the last Labour government, which understood the importance of early years education and of specialist qualified staff at that crucial point in a child's development. And they are each rated outstanding by Ofsted, partly as a result of the quality of teaching from those specialist qualified staff. Sadly, the current government watered down this requirement for qualified teachers at nursery level and withdrew the extra funding needed, an act of educational vandalism in my view. And we now have a situation where some nurseries that have qualified teachers are more expensive to run than those that don't. We clearly are running the risk that these 4 excellent nurseries will eventually have to be pared down to offering only the basic level of childcare. And we on this side of the chamber will not support a step in the direction of what Councillor Moore coined bare minimum Barnet back at the annual meeting in June. The Council have said that the extra funding to allow these nurseries to continue to run with qualified staff will gradually be decreased to nothing, and they propose a merger of the nurseries to cut costs. I Unfortunately, the merger has not been fully discussed with all the chairs of governors, and Moss Hall have made it clear that they wish to remain a standalone nursery. The council has also failed to come up with a robust budget forecast or undertaken a proper feasibility study for the proposed merger, which has reduced confidence in the plan among parents and the nurseries. This is no way to run a consultation or to make such a significant change to local services. The nurseries themselves have been looking at how they can continue to offer an outstanding service with no resource from the council and have come up with some innovative ideas, but some say they need more time to consider and work on a plan for their future. And Moss Hall has produced a viable business plan which will continue to save the council £160,000 every year from 2016. The council needs to support both the request for some of the nurseries for more time and the Moss Hill business plan. I now urge all councillors to support my amendment to the report.
If you say your name, who you represent, and
Yeah, my name is Andrew Ferguson. I'm the Vice Governor of St Margaret's Nursery School. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. St Margaret's has been in the community for over 100 years. This is evident in the war memorial plaque currently on display in the Barnet Museum. St Margaret's has received 3 consecutive outstanding Ofsted reports. St Margaret's reluctantly agreed to accept the amalgamation, or that amalgamation may be an option for us to look at under threat of closure and loss of skilled jobs. As governors, we have yet to be convinced that the proposal of amalgamation is either workable financially or that it maintains the outstanding quality of the early years learning offered to children that we provide for in Barnet. To this end, we've raised a number of questions that require answers. As yet, they have not been addressed.
can you draw it to a close, please?
Yes. Despite our concerns, this document was brought to Council Committee last week and is being discussed hastily again tonight. Please, before you vote tonight, we respectfully ask you to consider seriously the following key points. With regards to the statement that all the 3 nurseries appear to be in on a viable proposal, we have not been asked and we have not been consulted in making a viable proposal. This has not happened. We're being asked to make redundant or lose key skilled staff, people who have trained and worked in this community for over 25 years. We need your support so that this doesn't happen. Our final point is that some of the proposals have been scored, and we've got no idea how these scores have been put together, but they really appear like a score of some inconvenience. My final point, we want outstanding early years education to continue in Barnet. If an amalgamation is the way forward, we're happy with that, but we want to be part of the process. So please give us the time tonight to explore this feasibility study by refusing to take this to Council tonight. Thank you.
I wouldn't mind the gallery, well done for being so enthusiastic, but the more time you spend applauding, the less time we have to debate. Councillor Salinger, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The gallery can hold its applause to the end. Mr. Mayor, I have to take issue with what Councillor Thompstone has said in moving the amendments that are in my view. The funding of the nursery schools is not about a subsidy. It is about the core funding for those nursery schools. And the problem lies with the early years funding formula, which is not fit for purpose. That urgently needs reviewing, and when that is done, a lot of these problems will go away. Councillor Chalice says the nurseries were set up under the last Labour government. She's just heard from St Margaret's, it was 100 years ago. Moss Hall was 50 years ago. These schools have been there for a very long time. And up until 2011, and with the addition of other monies since then, they have always been funded to have a head teacher, a deputy head, and teaching and support staff. And that is what they want to continue to do. Moss Hall School did not join the consortium of schools, the amalgamation. It is too far away from the others to think that you can share a caretaker. It's too far away to think that you can share one secretary across 4 schools. No one has seen a budget for the new school. We don't know if it's financially viable or not. We are committed at Moss Hall, and I think the other schools really should be as well, to high quality early years education. Children don't get a second chance with their education, and we need to give them the best possible start that they can to their education. And that is why I have put this amendment down tonight, and I hope that members of this, enough members of this council, including all the Labour members, will see fit to support my amendments, which will see a clear way forward for the 4 nursery schools. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. So Margaret may well have been in existence for 100 years, but the reason we're in this position now is due to a fundamental culture shift in government educational thinking. It was a move from the last Labour government which recognised the fundamental importance of having qualified teachers at that particular level and how this impacted on development later on. And the short-sighted view of the coalition which didn't recognise that. And this council is taking the same approach. So long as it saves money in the short term, that's all right then. Despite saying that they support early intervention. What is a properly staffed nursery with qualified teachers if that isn't early intervention? This is short-sighted and trying to get results on the cheap. Other local authorities in this position, and there are many I think throughout the country, give at least some funding to their nursery schools, and we should do the same. We are now in an impossible position. We want to support our nursery schools, but we can't do that effectively without at least some extra funding. And why should they be funded on a shoestring? That does not produce outstanding results. Clearly the budget needs to be sorted out to fairly reflect the funding for all 4 nurseries.
Would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am, of course, not surprised with Councillor Salinger comments and the amendments, given that he has been on board of government at Moss Hall for longer than most members have been on council, and indeed longer than some have been alive. Councillor Salinger's change to recommendation 4 to ensure the consultation comes back to committee to help to ensure that St Margaret's had time as officers to be able to work through those proposals. I can't support the rest of his amendment, nor indeed Councillor Chalice's, as neither member identifies where the additional funding would come from. I am surprised at the Labour amendment, given that it effectively asks for early years providers across the council, including those about areas of our greatest deprivation, like Burnt Oak and Colindale, to take a real chance funding cut to prop up a subsidy in areas that have a much lower deprivation composition than either national or Barnet. I understand my opposition colleagues trying to use education for political ends, however I am surprised at the political card for some of the most vulnerable young people and urge them to withdraw the shambles amendment.
This is not Maiden.
These
are our children. Doesn't know what Maiden does.
Move to the vote on Councillor Thompson's amendment.
Yeah.
All in favour of Councillor Thompson's amendment, please show. It's 32.
What?
Should have done Specsavers!
It's 31, that amendment's carried. on Councillor Chalice's amendment.
What?
All in favour of Councillor Chalice's amendment, please show.
Can I ask what happens if everyone votes in favour of hers and in favour of mine?
Let's see how the votes go first.
Put your hands up over there.
That's 30.
Come on!
32, Mr. Mayor. All against? That's 31.
Private
Mr. Mayor.
nurseries, yeah.
Carried.
Private.
Councillor. Now we have the original motion as amended by Councillor Chalice.
You've still got my amendment.
Mr. Lard, would you like to explain the situation, please?
As Councillor Chalice's amendment has been carried, we are now voting on Councillor Salinger's amendment to what is now Councillor Chalice's amended motion.
All in favour of Councillor Salinger's amendments, please show.
When did you go to nursery school?
All in favour of Councillor Salinger's can you show clearly if you're voting for Councillor Salinger's amendment? All in favour of can you show clearly if you're in favour of Councillor
Is it possible to just explain what the voting arrangement is?
Mr.
I'm
Lard,
unclear on what we're voting on.
The original, there was originally a motion standing in the name of Councillor Thompstone, as amended by Councillor Thompstone. The amendments to that motion standing in the name of Councillor Chalice have been carried. That means that the motion as it stands is an motion as amended by Councillor Chalice. What you're voting on now, therefore, are proposed amendments by, or in the name of Councillor Salinger, to Councillor Chalice's amended motion.
I repeat, all in favour of Councillor Salinger's amendment, please show. All against? That's one. Mr. Mayor, sorry, that's one vote. All against?
Come on, what's children in some You know what it says.
Can you show clearly if you're voting against?
I haven't got any idea. They don't know what they're voting about. We get an old military.
31, Mr. Mayor. The amendment is lost. Can you please explain, Mr. Travis, the amended motion that we're voting on? Amended recommendation. So the motion now in front of the council is the motion as amended by Councillor Chalice, which is
The amendment of the amendment of the amendment.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question? On this motion is lost. Does that mean that nothing has been approved by the council?
Not yet.
And that it will all have to come back to another meeting?
one moment, Councillor Salinger.
An amendment.
If the motion as it now stands was to be voted against, recommendation 1, as originally moved, would stand. Everything else would be voted down.
Can I just confirm that Councillor Chalice's motion, which has been passed, the amendment to the original item, which was amended by Councillor Chalice, is now the substantive of which the members of this chamber will now be voting on. Simples.
Correct.
Maybe early years in the 50 years ago, we considered it possible.
On that basis, all in favour of the motion as amended by Councillor Chalice, all in favour, please show.
That's 32, Mr. Mayor.
All against?
That's 31, Mr. Mayor.
Now that's what I call a major speech.
Mr. Mayor, so the motion as amended by Councillor Chalice has been carried, and that's the motion agreed by the Council. Thank you very much indeed. Now we move on to 11.4, libraries.